Hi, everyone, and welcome to A Mom in the Making. I'm really excited to be here with Sarah and Julia from All Things with Purpose. How you girls doing tonight?
We're great.
Good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I am so excited to talk with you, and we've got a really exciting podcast coming up on Monday. But for tonight, they're going to share with us 3 tips for moms who are looking to create more flexibility in their schedule. Because I think sometimes there's so many opportunities and different great things that we can do in the world. There's just like, oh, we're overloaded and our schedules are insane. And I think that these two do a really good job of creating balance and flexibility. So what are 3 tips that you girls would say that we could share with moms to try to create more flexibility in our crazy schedules?
Well, our number 1 tip is to prioritize. And I know that has helped us so much as with our young families of 3 kids each, is just looking and saying, what is really important to you? And forgetting about your dream of maybe taking gymnastics when you were a little girl, and your husband's dream of his son being the best soccer player in the world.
Right.
And not putting that pressure on yourself to start them out at 2 and 3 doing these types of activities.
They need to be the best, though.
Absolutely. And if you don't start now, their natural ability will never shine through.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so looking at some of those things, and our philosophy has been, how can we get the most out of each experience possible? So, for example, my kids will be starting swimming lessons next Friday because it's an activity that at the same time, all 3 of them can be involved in. So I'm able to participate, absolutely, to take them, but I'm the bus driver instead of just a chauffeur, right?
Right.
And so prioritizing is so key, but you really have to know what's important to you. And one of the things, to be willing to give up that dream, if that was a dream of yours or something you think you owe to your children.
Right.
But for us, we found, especially while our kids are smaller, that if you do not leave any margin for yourself and your family, that is when you get upset and you don't have time for your toddler to have an accident. You don't have time to clean up the spilled milk. You don't have time to help your other children find their missing shoe. Okay.
Exactly.
It's just so frustrating. And then you look back and you're upset with yourself because you realize I got upset about something that was so insignificant in the grand scheme of life. And I just modeled that behavior to my child. And so you give yourself that time and you give yourself that grace.
Right.
Your life is just so much better, but it means that you have to give up on some other things.
Right. So kind of going off of that, prioritizing would be just finding freedom in that, taking that weight off of your shoulders. Sorry. You don't have to be the soccer mom that's driving your kid in every different direction. You've got 3 kids and they're all in different sports, and after school you're picking them up and driving them all over the place, and you don't ever have a chance to eat together as a family. Your life is consumed with the activities that you've planned. And I want to be careful because we've had friends that we've had this kind of discussion with, and it's not something that we're against. I would never tell anybody that I'm against sports.
No.
In fact, my husband is super obsessed with sports. He's
Luckily mine's not.
My husband he's really into sports. It's just his thing. And he was in sports as a kid. And I'm sure he has dreams of our kids being involved in sports. The problem with our society nowadays is there's such a huge expectation. And there's so much pressure put on little kids. It's not about having fun. It is about getting in there and getting a jump on it and hoping to get a scholarship or hit it big and go professional later on in life, whatever it might be. I just feel
not realistic, by the way, people.
For most people, it's not going to happen. So it's and I don't know if people. I don't know, anyway, but. The key is just finding freedom. If that is not what you want, hey, you don't have to do it.
Right.
I just want to say that. because I feel like a lot of people feel like that is what you have to do. That's just what you do. Right. You know, your kids want to be involved in baseball, wants to be involved in soccer, wants to be involved in hockey. It's your job as a mom to give them those opportunities, and that's what you have to do. And sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, but sometimes that is not what's best for your family.
Right.
Might not be best for your sanity or your kids' sanity. And it takes away, again, going back to prioritizing, if it's cutting in on things that are important for your family, right. And taking over the things that you did want to make a priority, then, you know what, you don't have to do it. I guess that's just the key is you can find freedom in that, freedom in not being the traditional soccer mom, and also this is different, but Pinterest would be the other thing we've talked about.
But she doesn't you don't have to feel guilty if you live at her house because her house looks like Pinterest. But for those of you who are like,
so for the rest of us in the world,
right. For the rest of you,
right. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, but
no. So I commented on her Instagram when she was ripping up her house. I'm like, oh, I love your decorations. Take a picture of those pictures over there. She's like, oh, those are the decorations that we're getting rid of. We're redoing the room. And I was like, can I just have your old room? Because if I just had your old room, I would be really happy with that.
Okay, but I find fun, like I find joy in decorating, and I enjoy it. It's not a stress to me.
That's right.
Where to Julia, it's a source of stress. So she does.
I just stay the same.
So she finds freedom in that.
I like it.
4 years, I think. And I do that. And Sarah, I've never seen this
yesterday.
Yeah,
Yeah, so find freedom in it. If it's something that stresses you out, don't feel like that's the expectation that has to be.
You have to do.
And just call yourself classic, because that's what I do.
I like it. I like it.
Her home is classic as well.
That's right. I am classic.
Yeah, and well, we were just talking too about with Pinterest, the expectation for moms to always have their kids' play dates scheduled out, organized. You have to have themed lunches and your pancakes.
Do you guys give your kids snacks that aren't themed? I'm a little offended.
They're not.
No, you give your kids
I don't know. Give my kids snacks. I let them fend for themselves and whatever they can find.
We're eating in 4 hours.
Yeah, there should be plenty of time.
Yeah. So I think that's...
Yeah, and I think the one of the key concepts in that is just looking at the family's health instead of the individual. And just like be the parent, and if it's not in your priority and your child really wants to do it, not that there can't be flexibility or things that go on there, but it's not, if it's not what's best for the family, it's not part of your priorities, then really seriously look at that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we want to touch really briefly on our number 3 thing, which we put when naming off the top 3 things for us that give our families flexibility. The third thing we both came up with was homeschooling, which I realize is not for everybody, but for our family, that actually is our biggest source of flexibility. We went on vacation at the end of August, and we were able to stay a week later than everybody else. All the cousins had to go home to school, and that's kind of a silly example of the flexibility, but basically it just doesn't tie us down. So we're able to, as a family, make family decisions for places that we're going to go, things we're going to see.
Right.
I don't know if there's other ways you can think of.
Well, there would be flexibility, like if your husband had a different schedule than somebody else.
Right.
And just even the thing that the swimming lessons that I'm participating in, where all 3 kids will have a teacher, is during the day, and it's specifically designed for homeschool families.
Yeah, which is great.
Just different things that obviously, if you can set your own schedule, you have more flexibility than people who aren't able to set their own schedule. So almost like working from home, or some type of aspect like that. So absolutely not for everyone, but it is kind of the ultimate flexibility schedule.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
And I like that I think, because I was homeschooled for most of my life, and I had friends who were homeschooled, and it was the greatest thing that ever happened to them. And I know kids who were homeschooled, and it was probably the worst thing. And it was like they switched back to school, and it was better for everyone. But one of the things that it does give you that freedom and flexibility is like when we were growing up, it's like, okay, we would do school during the week, but my dad's day would rotate which day he was off. So it wasn't like, because he worked at the post office, so it wasn't like he had a regular job where like he gets off every Saturday. So it was like if he was off on Tuesday, we would go to the Metro Park on Tuesday and we would spend the day outside doing science projects. And it was kind of like we would do those more outdoorsy. We might go to a museum, things on the days when it made sense to do that. And then when it was like when he was at work, we were working, and it gives you, if you knew that mom was having a baby, you might start school a little bit earlier in the summer. So then when, those couple weeks after a baby, you could have that freedom and flexibility. And I think that really does allow people flexibility.
And both of our husbands are like that. We have their schedules are very different. My husband is a youth pastor and he works more, he's crazier.
I was gonna say, he's got to be crazy on the weekends.
The weekends. So, if our kids were in school, he wouldn't see them much on the weekends. That's when he's busiest. So it just, again, makes sense for our family, but it's one of the reasons we like it.
No, that's right. Okay. So I want to recap so that, for the moms out there. So if you're looking to add flexibility to your schedule, number one is just prioritize. And I think that that's important of not looking at what's best for the family across the street or your in-laws or someone else, but looking at, okay, for our family right now, what is going to be best. And then I think your second one was just finding freedom in that decision and owning it and being like, okay, that, this is what we've decided. This is what's best for our family. And looking at the big picture of kind of like, okay, as a whole group, how is this going to work for us? And then, your last was homeschooling. And again, you're right. It's not going to be the perfect decision for everyone, but for a lot of people, it is the best decision. And, undeniably, it gives you a ton of flexibility and freedom. And so I think that those are kind of three great ways that moms can really integrate flexibility and freedom into their life. So if moms want to kind of check out more of you two and, get to see more of what you do, where can they find you at?
Well, they can find us in two spots now. They can find us at allthingswithpurpose.com and homeschoolwithpurpose.com.
Ooh, that's exciting.
It's a new rollout, a new website for us that we're kind of putting tips that we learned. We needed a bigger outlet for those tips, those homeschooling tips and things that we're doing. And so we have a homeschoolwithpurpose.com also.
Yeah. And you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Purpose Blog. We're on Facebook, All Things with Purpose, as well as the Homeschooling with Purpose. And Julia also does some video blogs on YouTube under All Things with Purpose as well. So
wonderful. All right. Well, thank you so much, Julia and Sarah, for being here. And make sure you all come back on Monday because we're going to have a great podcast episode with both Sarah and Julia. And thank you so much for being here. This is Teresa from A Mom in the Making.
Thanks, Teresa.
Bye.
Bye.